Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Choda and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Thank you so much for being a viewer and a subscriber. The Ignition Time channel is about the country, it's about the economy, and it's about your money. Folks, everyone's struggling financially, and that's why I want to provide you with the latest news, the latest information, so you understand exactly what's going on in Washington, D.C. Please watch this video all the way through to the end because I'll give you some important updates and I'll tell you something really significant towards the end as it pertains to stimulus. So make sure you watch all the way through to the end. Let's just jump right in. On your screen, you'll see a tweet from Burgess Everett, who's a co-congressional bureau chief at Politico, and he says that the Democratic leaders are confident that they can actually pass budget reconciliation this week and set up the stimulus relief without a single Republican vote. You heard me talk about Bernie Sanders. There he is. Hello, Bernie, who basically said that the Democrats have enough votes to pass reconciliation. So according to Majority Whip Durbin, he said the sentiment is positive. We don't ask for an oath in writing, but we are proceeding with a positive feeling, which means that Democrats have what they need in order to be able to pass the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill through budget reconciliation. And so, folks, why is the $1.9 trillion stimulus package so important relative to the $618 billion package? Well, according to Greg Ip, who's a chief economics commentator for the Wall Street Journal, Greg says that both the $1.9 trillion package and the $600 billion package will help the economy get back to pre-pandemic levels by the second quarter of 2021. In other words, we could actually get back to the peak that we had prior to the pandemic by the second quarter of 2021. But even though both programs are going to be beneficial and would return us back to where we were, the Biden plan would do so faster and would include an overshoot. Folks, let's take a look at this chart on your screen. Stimulus packages total impact on real GDP. If you look at those sort of dotted lines, those dashes, that represents the pre-COVID path where we were pre-COVID. And if you look at the light blue section, that is what happens with the Biden plan. And if you take a look at the pink section, that is what happens with the $618 billion Republican plan. So folks, in the grand scheme of things, we've already spent so much money, $618 billion and $1.9 trillion. Folks, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that far apart. And to me, I don't know about you, but the blue line looks a whole lot nicer than the pink line to me. And folks, in other important news that was reported by Jeff Stein from the Washington Post, Jeff says that Senator Dick Durbin, the Democrat from Illinois, and Congresswoman Cindy Axne, who's a Democrat from Iowa, introduced a legislation to waive income taxes on the first $10,200 in unemployment benefits received in 2020. Keep in mind that right now, stimulus checks are not taxed, but unemployment benefits are subject to tax. So what these lawmakers are proposing would waive income tax on the first $10,200 in unemployment benefits for the year 2020. And what's super interesting is this would apply not only to state benefits, but also to the PUA program, which is for part-time workers, self-employed workers, gig workers. It would also apply to the FPUC program, which is the booster, essentially, the $300 a week booster. And it would also apply to the PEUC program, which is the 13-week extension. So this is going to be very important. Also, folks, here's a tweet on your screen from Caitlin Collins, who reports that President Biden and the U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen are going to be in a virtual lunch with other Senate Democrats today to talk about stimulus relief as per the office of the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. And folks, there's a very fine balance to all this. You'll see this tweet on your screen from CNN Politics, which basically says that even though the Democrats won the Senate, keep in mind that we have 50 Democratic senators and we have 50 Republican senators in the United States Senate, and the tie-breaking vote will be cast by Vice President Kamala Harris. Even though the Democrats have a razor-thin majority, they still don't control the Senate. In fact, Dick Durbin, the Democrat from Illinois, the Democratic senator, basically said, we can't get anything done without bipartisanship. Let's roll the tape and hear what he had to say.
Realistically, could you, if there were a 2-week delay, not just get some cabinet picks approved, but get a stimulus package through? Nancy Pelosi says that she could have it already by February 1st.
Well, I can tell you that's a high priority. Whether we can achieve it that quickly in the Senate with a 50-50 split remains to be seen. We still need an organizing resolution, which means Senator McConnell and Senator Schumer have to agree on the basics. How many members will be on each one of the committees, and what's the split between the two parties, and the procedure that's going to be followed. That needs to be done. There's a sense of importance and urgency on that too. I want to get down to business in the Senate Judiciary Committee. We want a hearing on domestic terrorist groups, the kind that invaded the Capitol here on January 6th, and a lot of other issues that are very timely.
If you cannot come, one of the sticking points in those negotiations is the question of the filibuster. I want to get to that in a moment. But if you can't come to agreement with Mitch McConnell and the Republicans, would you and the Majority Leader Schumer be willing to go to reconciliation to get stimulus passed?
I'm not ruling that out, but in fact, that may be the avenue we follow. A more important approach would be to see if there is bipartisan support for passing the measure initially. It's a 50-50 Senate. We can't pass anything, the Republicans can't pass anything without bipartisanship. If we can establish that early on, I think it'll make a difference. I'm in a group of 16 senators, 8 Democrats and 8 Republicans, that moved the $908 billion COVID relief package that passed a few weeks ago. There's a sense there that we want to be more productive and work together and have an actual floor debate that means something to the American people.
So basically, folks, here's the problem. When the Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, there he is, and the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, when they strike a power-sharing agreement, again, they need to strike a power-sharing agreement, and when they do that, two things can happen. Number one, the president can get his nominations confirmed. That is number one. And number two, the Democrats can take control of key committees. Until there is a power sharing agreement, the president cannot get his nominations confirmed, and the Democrats cannot take hold of key committees. And that's the holdup right now. Also, folks, in other big news, you'll see this tweet on your screen from Jeff Stein from the Washington Post. I mentioned this. The White House is ready to make the stimulus checks more targeted. And in fact, Shelley Moore Capito, the Republican senator from West Virginia who met with the president last night, said so. So the administration is ready to make them more targeted, but it wants to keep the stimulus checks at $1,400. And also, folks, big news. Joe Manchin, the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, has said that I will move forward with the budget resolution because we must address the urgency of the COVID crisis. He says, let me be clear, and these are words I shared with President Biden, our focus must be targeted on the COVID-19 crisis. Folks, the stage is set. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. You'll get a link to our resource in the description section below. And please click like. Please subscribe, please enable notifications. That really helps out the YouTube algorithm. I would really appreciate you taking a minute of your time to do that. If you do that, it sets up a confetti-like atmosphere and it makes me very happy. I would appreciate you doing that. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.